anytime you put together a document, you definitely want to put your best foot forward, and there's no better way to do that than to make a gorgeous cover page to make that great first impression on your reader. So in this video, we're going to focus on how to not just make a cover page itself. We will go through those basics, but then we are going to up your game a bit and make that cover page really gorgeous. So let's get started. First section of the video, we're going to talk about just how to get a cover page into your documents. And what we will do first is go to Layout, Breaks, and you might think that you want to put in a page break, but I recommend that you don't do that for a few reasons. Go ahead and instead do Section Break, Next Page. It does almost the same thing as a page break, except that if in your document you have headers and footers and you want your cover page to be different, then by making a section break, then you can make your cover page different and not have the headers and footers and page numbering of the rest of the document. So that's why that's important, and we'll go into that in more detail in another video. But for right now, we have a nice clean page now that we can put our cover content on. So what a lot of people will do is just go here to the Insert menu and insert a text box, and we'll go ahead and drag that over to our cover, and we'll type in our title, How to Make a Gorgeous Cover Page, and maybe they'll make that larger. So let's go ahead and make it 24 point, and let's center it on the page and see how that little green line pops up to let us know that we're centered. And then I'm going to wreck it because I'm going to widen this a bit. Okay, and let's take off the outline and say no outline. And then also, let's put some other information that might normally be on a cover page, such as, and I just did a copy and paste, and let's say the author's name and the date and the company name. Okay, and I'm going to put that down here, maybe at the bottom, and we'll center that. Okay, and so here, technically, you have a cover page, but it's really not very nice. And so what I'd like to do is show you how to take your black and white cover page and really apply some design. So let me show you a couple of examples that you can do. And my criteria for this video and the examples that I'm going to show you is that all three of these examples can be built right within Microsoft Word. You don't have to have any other software, you don't have to have any other tools, and you don't have to have any graphic design experience. I am not a graphic designer, but I've been able to use some of the lesser known tools in Word to make these cover pages and other graphics look really good, and I'm going to show you all my secrets. So here is an example of one that I put together, and this was done all within Microsoft Word, including this lovely sloped border or edge on the picture. We brought in a nice picture that may or may not be related to the theme of your paper. Sometimes when you're doing papers about databases or mathematics or business, then there really isn't always a great graphic to illustrate exactly what it is. So you can just find something that looks pretty or find something that's geometric. I'll show you a few other examples. So here's one, same information as on this other example that I put together for you, but Looks a whole lot better, doesn't it? Here's another example. All done right within Microsoft Word, even the angles on the edges of the graphics there, all done in Microsoft Word. And here's another one. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to do all three of those. I will put some markers on the video so that if you are interested in design number 1, design number 2, or design number 3, you can skip right to them. Otherwise, if you want to just follow along with me, we'll start with the first one. I'm going to show you how I created this with the lovely curves on the edge of the design here. So let's go back to our plain document. And let's get started. So the first thing is to grab your picture. Now I pulled the picture in the example that I showed you from a site called Pixabay, pixabay.com. And actually here's another example from one of the other cover designs that I showed you. So let's go to Pixabay and we'll pull sunset, palm tree. Here's the picture. We'll right click on it and copy. What I love about Pixabay is that they put right on here what the terms of use are. So this picture is free for commercial use and no attribution required. However, I do want to just shout out to Coco Parisian, who has contributed 2,682 images to Pixabay for people like us to use for free. So Coco Parisian, if you're out there, thanks for doing that. So we're going to copy this image, go over to our document, or we'll Control V and paste. Now look what happened. It's way down at the bottom, and I always say in my videos, you have to show the pictures who's boss. Do that by going over to this arc, go to the bottom right tile that says in front of text. And now that is able to be dragged all around however you want to. I'm going to zoom in a bit on this page so you can see a little bit better what's going on. So we have this how to make a gorgeous cover page. I'm going to move that over for a moment. Let's put him in front of text also. And we're just going to move him over out of the way a bit. Maybe down here where I'll still be able to see. Okay, and then we're going to pull the palm tree picture all the way to the top corner and drag it to fill the whole page. And you can drag it off a little bit, and you can adjust this as any way that you see fit. It looks like we need to come up a bit, and then we'll increase the size of it here down at the bottom. Okay. So we have filled the entire space. Keep in mind that this is called a full bleed when you fill up the whole page like this. And when you do a full bleed that goes all the way to the edges of the page, that is great for online reading. If you print this on a printer, you will get a white border. That's not the end of the world, it's just something to know about. So now I'm going to take this picture and I'm going to select picture format. And here's where some magic happens. Crop. And then I'm going to pick crop to shape. And this is so fun. Now you can pick any shape in this whole list and crop your picture to that shape. So I'm going to pick in the flow chart, I'm going to pick the document symbol. And look what happened. We got this beautiful arc right on the bottom of this picture. And it just adds a flare of style to the cover It makes it look much more custom than if you just put a square picture on there. Okay, so now let's take a look at the text. So let's go ahead and put him in front of text. And let's go ahead and highlight. I just did a Control A on this text. And I am going to pick a font that is a little bit more pronounced. I have this font called Bebas that I like to use. If you don't have this, you can use Calibri, you can use Helvetica, you can use Arial Black, any of those. They're called sans serif fonts, look really good on a cover. So I'm going to pick Bebas. I'm going to right click on my shape and I'm going to bring to front, and then I'm going to move this down and position this in the white area. Okay, so this is going to be my signature line, and then the title, I'm going to pull this up and we're going to do right click, bring to front. I'm going to put my cursor in the text box, Control A to select all, go to my home ribbon, I'll select my Bebas font, and let's make this nice and big. Let's go with 48. Okay, so this is starting to come together, but it doesn't look quite custom, and it doesn't look quite as professional and polished as I would like, because we've got these kind of rectangles sticking into what was otherwise a very lovely curve. So let's fix a few things. First of all, let's make this font a little bit smaller. This 24 point, especially when it's printed, is actually pretty large. So I'm going to reduce this down to 14 point and bring this down a bit. And since it's in the bottom right corner, let's right justify. So we're going to go to Home Ribbon, Paragraph Group, and we will right justify, align right. Okay, but I still have this corner, so I am going to go to my shape format, and in my shape fill, I'm going to say no fill. Okay, so here we go. Now we have this whole nice curve completely uninterrupted here on the cover page. So that looks really nice so far. Now up here, what I'd like to do is, instead of having black on white, I think one of the easiest ways that you can really punch up the look of a document and really up your game is to use color and pick colors out of the graphic that you used for your cover graphic. So in this graphic, we have orange, we have dark blue, purple, and then we also have black. So actually black doesn't look bad with this, but let's see if we can experiment with some other things. How about if we highlight this text? So I just hit Control A, go to the Home tab, and let's make it white letters. Then let's click on the shape, go to Shape Format, and say Shape Fill, No Fill. And since I have a relatively dark background graphic, this white really pops. So now let's see if we can do a little bit more to make this really just a little bit more custom. So let's put our cursor before the word A, and I'm going to tap Shift and Enter on my keyboard, and then I'm going to move my cursor over and hit Shift and Enter again, and then Shift and Enter again, so that I have this nice title. And with an article like a, and, the, or other short words like of, I'll take those and I will bring down the font. Now you might be asking, why did you use Shift Enter? Well, the reason is because Shift Enter gives a soft return, and a soft return doesn't put as much space between the lines typically as a hard return, or if you just hit Enter. That'll put a little bit more space between the lines and it doesn't look as good on a title. So use Shift Enter to keep this spacing. You can also go into your paragraph settings and adjust spacing that way if you desire. Okay, so we're almost there. I'm going to move this up just a bit because see how my C is sort of running into this light yellow, and that makes it a little bit harder to read. So I'm going to pull this up a bit into the darker area so that it's really easy to read. Now you can also play with the placement of this text box. You could play with the alignment of the text box. There's all kinds of things. You have ultimate freedom, and so as I guide you through this, I hope that this just gives you ideas for how to make this your own. But if you want this template, I am happy to send it to you. I would love it if you would subscribe to my channel and like this video, and then you can send me an email at freebies, and if you do that, I will send you this template for free. All right, so let's do one more thing. Let's go to Insert, Shapes, and these are little details that really are not required, but I just think they add so much. If you think about just some little graphic details, like a little line, and I'm going to draw, I'm holding the Shift key to keep this line super straight, and I will let go. And then I'm going to go to Shape Format, and I am going to make this outline white to go with my letters, and I am going to make it a bit heavier. So let's go to, I think 2¼ point is great. And then I'm going to copy that and paste it. And I'm going to move this one right over here to the other side. And then I'm going to click on both of them and just make sure that they are absolutely aligned with each other. So under Shape Format, I will go to Align, and then we're going to align the middles and see how they were just slightly off from each other. And then I'm going to pull these down just a bit. Just a teensy bit. To maybe be lined up with the cross and the A. Okay, again, that's a small detail, but I think it really just adds so much of a nice custom look to your cover page. When you do little details like that, it really just makes it look like a professional designer came in and did this cover page for you. And really, you're just using things that are right inside Microsoft Word. Last thing I'm going to do is I talked about using color. So I'm going to come down to my author and my date and company name, and I'm going to just pull in a color from the graphic and maybe just do a dark blue. And again, this is a small detail. I could have left it black and it would have looked fine. I think the dark blue gives it a nice classy look. So there it is. There is a cover page that I would be very proud to turn in as a work product. I would be very proud to post this on a website or on my blog. And again, we did this just using the tools right within Microsoft Word. So, who wants to see another design? Let's take a look at how I did this one. So here is another cover that I did. Again, this is just one graphic from Pixabay that we manipulated using some of the tools in Microsoft Word. So let me show you how it was done. First, I'm going to show you that this is, we'll go just to the original shape of this was this right here. In fact, it was this one. So I'm going to just delete some of the things on this page. So the first thing is just to pick a nice graphic. And I thought this graphic on Pixabay was pretty cool. I went and searched for vectors and background images, and I found this cool swoopy, I guess there's a theme here that I like cool swoopy graphics. But anyway, take this graphic and you kind of follow the same pattern. First, you make sure that you can put this in front so you can freely move it around the page. And then under picture format and crop, this time I chose a different shape. So in your shapes, there is under flowchart, and I really think flowchart has some of the coolest ones to use. There is this manual input symbol. So that gives you this cool slant. So then I moved that to the bottom, and then I simply copy, paste, and rotate this picture around to give me a top and bottom. And then I go to Insert, Text Box, and I forget what I called this, Building Blocks of Successful Projects. And then let's pick a nice font. I'll go with one that I know everybody has. Let's go with Arial Black. And then you make it larger. And then we're going to put this in front of text. Move it down into your empty space. And then we will select Control A to select all. Center. And maybe we'll play with the font a little bit. Let's do some small caps and make this a little bit larger. This is a little bit different from the original example, but you're getting the idea. And then as you can see, we've got some overlap into our graphics. We don't want that, so let's go ahead and go to Shape Format, Shape Fill, No Fill, Shape Outline, No Outline, and you can just leave it like that. Or in the original example that I showed you at the beginning of the video, I had experimented a bit with just putting in a few shapes just for accents. And so Microsoft fills these with blue by default. Of course, you can change that. Go to shape fill, no fill, shape outline, and I just chose light gray just to give a little bit of a texture in this white space. And then I click on the line of the graphic and Control C, click off of it, Control V, and you can kind of put these all around. Just as another little graphical element. And I'm just Control V-ing every time just to continue to make these rectangles. And then I'll go ahead and send this one, send to back. I right clicked and hit send to back there. And if you don't like how it runs into the text, you can certainly click on that and move it over, just like so. And then you can copy this title, paste, and then place that down below. And I think because this is dark, I would probably create these. I would probably create this in white letters. So we'll just do that quickly. And I also think that's way too big. So generally, you want the title to be the largest thing on a cover page. This title should be the focal point, and then your credit information, your date information, and so forth would be smaller. And the other advice I have for you is don't put this type in front of really busy parts of your graphic if you can avoid it. Try to put it on the more plain areas if you can. So that is the second example. And finally, our third example is really made along the same lines. So in this example, we actually have two different graphics that we pulled from Pixabay. So we found a triangle or angles type of background graphic, and then we played with the colors. I'm going to show you how to do that. And then we found, I searched for the word brain, and we found this cool tree branch brain graphic that we were able to drop in. So let's start with a blank page, and I will show you how this was done. Okay, so we have a blank page, and we have the graphic that I pulled from Pixabay, and I just searched for geometric background, and I found this in the vectors section. So first step, put this graphic in front of text. Second step, go to crop, crop to shape, and this time I am going to use the right triangle shape, which is right here. And then I'm going to move it up to the top left corner. So you may, depending on the graphic that you pull, you may need to play around with the size. And I don't think this needs to necessarily go across the whole page. So let's do that. Now let's copy, click off of the graphic and paste. And now let's use another tool that Microsoft has built in, which is, and it's great for vector type drawings, especially. It does a really good job with recoloring. We are going to go to Picture Format, Color, And Word gives you a number of choices. You can also look for more variations in color if you have a specific color that you're going after. I'd like to do this one in blue and gold, so I'm going to pick this cool gold accent. Then I'm going to go to rotate, and again we're still under picture format, and I'm going to flip this horizontally and then move this to the top right. Then I'm going to hold down my Shift key and select both the blue and the yellow triangles. Copy, Control C, click off of the triangles, Control V to paste, and then we're going to go to Picture Format, Rotate, Flip Vertical. And then I'm going to flip horizontal again. So that way we have two diametrically opposed sets of triangles, if you will. And then we're going to play with the placement of them a little bit. I'm going to move this yellow down to the bottom left and move this blue down to the bottom right. And depending on the look that you're going for, you can leave it just like this if you want the blue to be more of an accent color and the yellow to be more predominant. Or you can bring, let's say you want this blue to be out in front so that you have equal amounts of blue and yellow on the page, or blue and gold. Then that looks really nice. And now you can put your title right in the middle. And so for this one, I decided to go with a really big all caps font. So let's insert our text box. And really with a cover page, don't be afraid to use large fonts and use color, especially pulling color out of your graphics. So I'm going to call this one The Power of Thought. That's just a title that I made up. I think it's pretty fun. I'm going to go with an Arial black, and I'm going to make this, let's start with 48, and we will resize this. Let's Control A to select all and hit center. And let's choose a blue that picks up the blue in the graphic. So maybe this one. Let's move down. That little green line comes up, so useful to help us stay centered. And now I see that I need to get rid of my white background, so we will go to Shape Format, Shape Fill, No Fill, Shape Outline, No Outline. I find myself doing those steps over and over when I'm working with text boxes. Then I'm going to make the word thought really big. So let's make that word thought 72. And you can also spread it out. This is called kerning in print terms or graphic design terms, but in Microsoft Word, it's called spacing under font. That's not to be confused with paragraph spacing. So you can say expanded, and let's expand it by 10 points. And then that spreads out your letters there. So you can play with that. It's a fun effect to do. Now that I've got the size, I'm going to center this a little bit better vertically. I think that looks good. And then I'm going to pull in my brain graphic just for something to break up or fill in a little bit more texture in all this white. You could leave it just like this. So this is completely a matter of personal style. I'm just giving you some options that you can use to just pump it up even a little bit more. So let's go over to Pixabay. I'm going to search for my brain graphic. And here it is. So shout out to GDJ for giving us this graphic free for commercial use, no attribution required. But thanks GDJ on Pixabay. So we'll copy the image. We'll come here to our Word document and we will Control V to paste. And we will set this to be in front of the text just for now, so that we can get this thing lined up. You might be thinking, what in the heck? But this will be very cool in just a minute. So I've got the top of this brain is going to be just inside the borders of the triangle. And I want it to be obvious that this is a head. Okay, and then I'm going to recolor. So we'll go to Picture Format, Color, and I'm going to pick this really light gray to make it much more subtle. And then I'm just going to send this guy right to the back. So I'm going to right click, send to back. And there, that gives you a little bit of a texture that sits behind that title, and I think that looks really cool. Again, this is all a matter of personal preference and what you think looks great. But doesn't this look better than a black and white title page? I think so. So the last thing is for this one, I'm just going to put my name on the bottom. So I'm going to copy and paste my text box. So I'll Control C to copy, click off of it, and Control V. Click my cursor in there, Control A to select all, and then type my name, Gina Nairn. I'm going to turn those letters white and put them down here, and see how I was dragging and it won't go down? That's because I didn't click on the arc and say in front of text. Now I can show that text box who's boss. And depending on the colors that you have behind this, you can put a shadow behind these letters. You can do whatever you want, but I'm going to leave that just as it is. So there you have it, 3 different, very different examples of very cool title page designs. If you would like any or all of these templates to use for your own projects, I'm happy to share them with you. I just ask that you would do me the favor of giving me a quick subscribe and a quick like on this video, and I will send you these templates for free. Email me and I'll be happy to help you out. If you have any questions, post them in the comments. I try to answer questions at least once a day. Every once in a while I get busy with my day job and it takes me a minute to get back to you, but really trying to just sort of put out some of this knowledge into the universe, see what I can do to help people up their game and fully use the features of Microsoft Word. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you learned something. If you did, again, show me some love with a like, and I will see you next time.